Previously on Z, our heroes identified the structure and function of root hair cells, xylem tissue and phloem tissue. And just when they've started destroying the different structures and functions of the leaf, they were attacked by this past paper question about petometers. But our heroes used the magical highlights to decode this question, and then they were able to turn the taps and the tide of this excruciating battle. And now our heroes have reached the final boss of Biology 1, respiration. Will our heroes build up lactic acid to the point of exhaustion, or will they be able to metabolize the knowledge from the previous episodes? Find out in the season finale of Z. Here are the retrieval questions for this lesson. You know what to do. The phloem tissue transports dissolved sugars from the leaves to the rest of the plant. When it's sunny, it's time to photosynthesize, so the stomata open to let in the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. The anode is the positive electrode. The anion is the negative ion. Graphite is slippery due to its layers being able to slide over each other, and that's because they have those weak intermolecular forces between them. Finally, diamond doesn't have the localized electrons, so it can't carry a charge, and therefore it cannot conduct electricity. In the previous video, we saw that the equation for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide plus water to give us oxygen and glucose. The symbols for each of these are shown here. The only one you probably have to memorize is glucose, C6H12O6. Photosynthesis needs the input energy of light energy, and so it is an endothermic reaction. If we look at photosynthesis in terms of energy, we are converting light energy from the sun into chemical energy stored in that glucose. One thing you should remember is that plants aren't just doing this to give us glucose, they use this glucose as well. And that glucose is used in the process of respiration. You notice that respiration is just the opposite of photosynthesis. That light energy that became chemical energy can now be released as useful energy to help maintain our metabolism, to help us grow and to survive. Also, we need to balance this equation. Demon time, 666.
Oh my god.
Glucose is the only one that doesn't change. This reaction takes place in the mitochondria, which is the only piece of information people tend to remember from science. But wait. Do not say mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Say it is the site of aerobic respiration. Let's break down those two words. Aero means air. Bios means life, re means again, and breath or spirit. So it essentially means when living organisms use air to breathe again, to survive, to keep breathing. But the newer definition is a bit more refined. You can get away with writing the chemical equation. Speaking of the equation, have a go at these challenge questions. The chemical in the air is obviously oxygen, and the chemical from digestion used in respiration is glucose. These are the two reactants. Respiration is an exothermic reaction because it's releasing energy. When there isn't enough oxygen, then anaerobic respiration occurs, and the "and" there tells us that it's without. This top reaction is the aerobic respiration that we just saw, and this is anaerobic respiration. Glucose is converted directly to lactic acid. You may remember from my reactivity series lesson that when we add oxygen to a reaction, this is called oxidation. Since anaerobic respiration is incomplete oxidation, less energy is released than in aerobic respiration. This version of anaerobic respiration occurs in muscles. The equation is slightly different for plants and yeast cells. The glucose is converted to ethanol and carbon dioxide, which is why anaerobic respiration in plants and yeast is used to make alcohol. The technical name for anaerobic respiration in yeast is fermentation. This is used to make bread because the carbon dioxide produced is used to make air pockets in that fluffy dough. This energy is needed to build large molecules. It's also used for movement, and finally is used to keep us warm. Before we move on to the effects of exercise on respiration, let's look at what metabolism actually is. Metabolism is all the chemical reactions in a body or in a cell, and there are different parts of the syllabus that link to metabolism. Let's look at all the different parts that metabolism can come up. It's used to convert glucose to starch and cellulose in plants, glycogen, this will be in animals, proteins using nitrate ions, and this happens in both plants and animals, is used to form lipids. 1 glycerol and 3 fatty acid molecules make lipids. Metabolism is used in respiration and also the breakdown of proteins into urea. These are the different reactions that can contribute to metabolism. You don't need to know more detail than this for this section of the syllabus, but there are more details in the other parts of the syllabus that this links up to, yeah? The best way to deep the effect of exercise on the body will be to look at some past paper questions. An athlete ran as fast as he could until he was exhausted. Figure 1 shows the concentration of glucose and lactic acid in the athlete's blood at the start and at the end of the run. The first question is asking us what anaerobic means. See if you can get this 1 marker. You shouldn't say without air, you should say without oxygen, okay? Not enough oxygen is in the reaction. The next question says, give evidence from figure 1 that the athlete respired anaerobically during the run. Do you think? Well, the lactic acid increased in the end. You shouldn't say anything about the glucose being depleted. That's because that occurs in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. And so the telltale sign of anaerobic respiration in humans anyway will be the buildup of that lactic acid. This next question is about the effect of running on the rate of blood flow through the athlete's muscles. We see that the rate of blood flow to the muscle on the y-axis and we see that time is on the x-axis. This question is asking us how long the athlete ran for. See if you can work this one out. We see that the blood flow increased at 0.5 minutes and started dropping off as 2 minutes. That means that the man ran for 1.5 minutes. The final question here is asking you to explain how the change in blood flow to the athlete's muscles helps him run. See if you can get all of these 4 marks. Well, more blood will mean an increased supply of oxygen and glucose. This will increase the respiration occurring inside the man's body, or aerobic respiration is even better to say, and so a release of energy occurs that allows the muscles to contract. The last concept to look at is oxygen debt, which is only in the higher paper. A student ran on a treadmill for 5 minutes. The speed of the treadmill was set at 12 kilometers per hour. The graph below shows the effect of running on the student's heart rate. Now have a go at these challenge questions. The student's heart rate was at 50 beats per minute. It took the student 4 minutes to recover. The reason why it takes longer to recover when the student ran faster was because more energy is needed, but not enough energy is supplied, so lactic acid is made due to an increase in anaerobic respiration. The reason why the time needed for the heart rate to reach its normal rate is because that extra oxygen that you're breathing in is used to break down the lactic acid. This is what your oxygen debt actually is. That extra oxygen breaks down the lactic acid, because the buildup of lactic acid will eventually lead to muscle cramps. And there we go. The lesson is done.
Fatality.
This is the last lesson of the Biology 1 paper. So yep, we've done all of Biology 1 for the Combined Science trilogy. Here's a playlist that you'll find all the videos I've done, and the required practicals in Biology 1 are also found there as well. Of course, check the description, the timestamps and all of that, and I'll catch you guys in a bit.